What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Off the Record. You love Off the Record. I love Off the Record. Everyone loves Off the Record. Why? Because frivolous speeding and other moving violations are poo-poo, poo-poo. You know what I'm saying? What you want is someone to help you with that. And Off the Record does that. Just go to offtherecord.com/TST or use code TSTPOD on the Off the Record app. And Off the Record is a service that will connect you with a qualified attorney in the jurisdiction in which you got that ticket, and they will fight that ticket on your behalf. No going to court, no filing motions, no doing extra silly work. Off the Record's got you. And if they can't get those points off your record, you don't pay anything. Off the Record is the best. I've used them a whole bunch. I've gotten a whole bunch of tickets wiped, and that's why I have a perfectly squeaky clean driving record. They are amazing. Offtherecord.com/TST or code TSTPOD on the Off the Record app. Get it now. Use it. Have it in your back pocket. So if you get pulled over, you're not panicking. You are ready to go. They will take good care of you, and you don't have to worry. The infrastructure for tickets is a pain in the bum. It's all about money, right? The court system, the insurance system, etc., etc. That's why you got to use Off the Record. Offtherecord.com/TST or code TST10 on the Off the Record, or excuse me, TST Pod. TST10 is the old code. You don't want to use that anymore. Use code TST Pod on the Off the Record app. And now let's get on with the show. Today's show is a banger. Me and Zack are in the studio, and we're talking about the Peter Attia podcast, the NHTSA discussion. Lots of people sent me this one, and I'm giving my thoughts on it. Talking about, I found a Rolls-Royce Phantom Coupe for sale, and I'm not going to buy it, but I found some details on it. It's very, very interesting. And of course, our buddy Ryan Zumailin, who is on the MPG, the Motor Press Guild, he's the president. He wants us to nominate ourselves for an award, and I'm feeling a little sketchy about that. So we're talking about which of any of our content deserves an award, plus lots of Q&A, plus what's the next resto-mod platform, what new cars compromise comfort. And in case you're wondering if I am reading these intros after drinking bourbon in a press launch, the answer is yes. It's the Smoking Tire Podcast. Here we go.
I think I went 5 days without shaving, and yesterday I looked terrible.
I shaved the day I flew to Spain for Taycan GT, which was, when was that?
That was a while ago.
That was on April 19th, March 19th, excuse me. So it's been,
that is a while.
It's been 2 weeks and a day.
That's 2 weeks?
This is 2 weeks and a day.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm pretty, and you know what I did yesterday or 2 days ago is I took my passport photo. So like, I was thinking, like, do I shave before the passport photo, or do I?
How long do you want to be detained?
I know, right? I know. Well, the question was then, now they have bald is an option. Brown, blonde, gray,
Was that not
black.
an option until recently?
Well, it certainly wasn't when I last got a passport in 2014.
It should have been.
I don't know if it was an option or not, but it didn't apply.
Okay.
10 years ago, it didn't apply. But I put bald. But there's a beard, so I don't know if they're gonna kick it back. What happened to your passport, by the way?
I have an appointment for Monday.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay. Double secret emergency.
Printed my itinerary.
If you guys
I read
didn't
all
listen
the
to the last
directions.
show,
Dude, my friend.
Even if you don't listen to anything else we say, you should listen to the 6 minutes of radio where Zack discovers his passport is about to expire before 2 international trips.
My friend Andrew texted me today, a friend of mine from Colorado. What's up, Andrew? And he just said, listening to you in real time learn that your passport is about to expire is the most Zack Klapman thing I've ever heard. I was in his wedding party, and I'll tell this story quickly.
You don't have to tell it quickly. There's no time limit.
Aim that right by like 2 degrees.
2 degrees right bubble.
2 degree right bubble. Perfect. So for his wedding, he got suits for all the groomsmen. And he asked me, hey, what's your suit size? And I said, 40 regular. Like that, because I had only bought suits off the rack up to that point.
I can see where this is going.
Oh, sure. Suit arrives in the mail months ahead of the wedding. I unzip it to about the chest. I see inside is a suit that says 40 regular. I go, great. I zip it back up and I put it in the closet. Right?
Yeah.
Suit's there.
No problem.
No problem. Go to the wedding. Morning of the wedding. Unzip this thing. Put suit pants on. Why are suit pants a foot longer than my actual legs? Because they needed to be hemmed. I was supposed to take the suit to the Men's Warehouse and get those stitched in correct place.
Correct.
There's also no shirt in there, which I assumed there would be. There's also red stitching on the shoulders that needs to be. There's like
oh no,
it's like
you
when
have
you get
to finish that shit yourself. This is a rental suit?
No, it was a purchase suit.
It was
You're
a
supposed to go to the
purchase
place
suit.
though.
Yeah.
Like it
And
was
have it
included,
tailored.
and
Yeah,
I
have
didn't
it-
do that. So I'm standing in
with free
Winter
tailoring
Park,
and it's like-
Colorado, with a suit that is a foot too long, that is like has extra
No
thread on
way.
it, and no shirt.
On 7 p.m. on a Friday.
It was it was like 2 hours before the wedding, and when we got thread from the front desk, and my friend's wife helped me hem
way.
it, and it looked bad.
Yeah.
But one of my friends, who's a groomsman, was so hungover, he drew all the attention.
Yeah.
Anytime we stood near each other, everyone's like, "Geez, Dave," and I was like, "Thank you, Dave." It was so bad.
That's pretty funny.
So that's why Andrew just wanted to text you like, "This is the most Zack Klapman."
That's
shit
really
I've
funny.
ever-"
Yeah. Yeah. Of course I have a passport. It's right here. It's blue. It's got pages in it. It's got my photo. What could possibly
It's
go wrong?
2024. That was yesterday. Oh, I guess I live in France now. And they won't let you back in.
No.
Which is insane. I don't understand. Like, that system to me is crazy.
No, that's where you'd have
But
to go to the fucking
gotta go to the
embassy.
Yeah.
Which is not in the city you will be in.
Definitely
France.
not. I got to go there like I'm seeking
Gotta
asylum.
take a train to Paris and be like, I fucked up.
And you know who's not going to be excited about that? Porsche.
Yeah. Maybe let you do a range test in the Macan.
That is so... No
That's-
24-hour grace period? Because I was going to be flying back the day after it expired.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah. Come on, it's France. They bend the rule a little bit. So, anyway,
we're all older, and maybe I'll shave tomorrow. Maybe that'll make me feel better. Trained a new employee this morning.
I saw him.
You meet Mikey?
I didn't meet him, but I did see
He's
him.
all right. Detailing nerd, has watched all of Larry's videos.
Perfect.
Knows everything. Used to work at a company that reimagines cars. Say that? California company that does some reimagining.
Imagine what a car would look like.
Imagine and then imagine again. That's what it is. So he's down there working with the boys. I was training him all morning. Did a lot of fucking talking today. Couple things I want to talk about. When we did our luxury car feature, one of my favorite luxury cars, the Rolls Phantom Coupe, driving to the grocery store the other day. Of course, it was on the day that I decided to drive to Erewhon. Remember I talked about Hannah had to get the colonoscopy. She needed bone broth because she couldn't eat anything, right? That's the prep, right? You can't eat solid food.
Right.
You can only eat
charcoal gallon.
Yeah,
drink.
you can only eat certain things. Bone broth was the thing.
Oh, okay.
So I went to Erewhon because they have the best bone broth, right? Hadn't been there in a while. $24
for an ounce
for a
glass of bone
mason jar of bone broth. But it's worth it because I love my wife and she needed good, nutritious bone broth. But anyway, drove past this sort of mid-level buy here, pay here style exotic car lot over on Lincoln there next to the Harley dealer. And they got a bunch of Gallardos and 360s and used Ghosts and shit like that. And there it was, a black with silver top Rolls Phantom Coupe. And I'd never seen one on like a used car lot before. And it was one of my favorite ones. So I called them and I said, what's the deal with the Phantom Coupe? He said, yes, my friend. 2010 Phantom Coupe, 15,000 miles, $185,000.
Damn.
So it was like that, but the hood, the center part of the top of the hood was the silver, the optional.
Ooh, that's
brushed.
pretty nice.
It was bitching.
That's pretty nice.
185 G's. And when I called them, Hannah's in the other room sipping bone broth, and I go, okay, cool. That's yeah, maybe I'll come by and take a look at it. She sticks her head through. Goes, are you buying a fucking Rolls-Royce? And I was like, no, I'm not buying a Rolls-Royce. She's like, why are you calling some dealer asking about a Rolls-Royce? I'm like, I swear to God, I'm not buying.
You just want to get off the phone. You're like, all right, I'll come by.
Yeah, of course. That's what you say. I'll be right down. I'll be down on Tuesday. Make an appointment. 185 G's. But that's some depreciation. This thing was about 450 in 2010.
I know.
And over time, I predict that these will go back up. They don't make these anymore. They only made them for 2 years. Very rare. It's kind of like the one to have.
All right. Well, remind me in 4 years. We'll look up what the prices are. Because I look at it, and to me, I would just get the regular Phantom, which probably feels almost exactly the same, and you could get those for like 60 grand.
Yeah, but if you're going to be driving, it says something different. If you want to actually drive a Phantom, you look like the chauffeur
if you're driving a four-door.
Driving a four-door, whereas you driving this, that's your car.
That's true.
You know?
That is valid. Look at that A-pillar, like that chrome A.
The chrome A-pillar?
Corner window.
God damn, is that fucking fire. And when you have the chrome A-pillar with the brush, and you got the grill, the center of the hood, and that A-pillar all in that metal, that's fucking hot.
Yeah, you got to get all the things matchy-matchy.
So I was happy I found one. There's one for sale in Los Angeles right now. A lot of people sent me the Peter Attia podcast. Did you know that guy is?
I know he is. Which one?
The doctor. It's a recent one with the guy from NHTSA. It's like 3 fucking hours long.
Whoa.
I'm blanking on the. Can you find it? It's like one of the most recent ones. It's from like 5 days ago, maybe 6 days ago. It's literally 3 hours long. It took me 7 sittings to get through it.
Roadway Death and Injury?
Yeah, that one, yeah. So this was an interesting podcast. I'd never listened to Peter Attia before. I knew who he was because he's this like doctor.
Like a longevity doctor.
Right, and he also happens to drive race cars.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's like into cars and racing.
Cool.
I emailed him, I don't know. This is the what do you call it? The transcription of it.
Yeah.
Because look, read time 71 minutes.
Yeah.
So I guess it'll take you 3 hours to listen to it, or an hour and 11 minutes to read it. But yeah, I emailed this guy and tried to get him on our podcast. No response. But a lot of people sent me this because it's this guy Mark Rosekind, who worked at NHTSA and they were talking about basically what causes death on the roadways. They talked about drinking, they talked about drugs, they talked about speeding, they talked about the high versus low center of gravity of vehicles, they talked about pedestrians and cyclists. I mean, it's a 3-hour conversation, very in depth. A little bit on autonomous cars. And I thought it was a lot of people, at least 10 or 12 people sent me this saying, you got to listen to this and tell us what you think. One thing they didn't talk about at all, which in a 3-hour conversation was interesting, was like road design or any kind of physical barriers to going fast. They talked a lot about tech, like driver monitoring and ADAS and speed limiters and stuff like that. I think it was a pretty balanced conversation, and there were a lot of good takeaways in terms of like, given our existing systems, cars, roads, what you can do as a driver to minimize your risk of death, what you can do as a pedestrian to minimize your risk of death. And I think there was some good realities in there about autonomous cars, how if we literally could flip a switch and we were all in autonomous cars automatically, that we could probably save some lives, but how messy it is if just some cars are autonomous and others are human driven. The guy was definitely pro ADAS and pro science. I don't think he leaned on Tesla enough for falsely promising their technology as being semi-autonomous, the mislabeling and stuff like that.
Did he hit on it at all?
He did say that it's important to understand that even though this thing is called autopilot and full self-driving, that it doesn't actually do either of those things. But he didn't go so far as to say that what I would say, which is that it's actually irresponsible and like bad for the cause to make people overconfident in those systems now. Yeah. But it's like, it was all over the place, and it was, I mean, not in a bad way. I just
mean,
mean
they cover a lot of ground.
They cover a lot of ground. It's a 3-hour conversation, and it's pretty, like, Peter is obviously very smart and knows a lot about cars, but it's a little dry. You're eating your vegetables for sure. It's not like listening to Some More News or John Oliver, where there's the jokes kind of carry you through the weight of the topic. But it was interesting. I'm glad people sent it to me, and I did listen to fucking every minute, but it took
2 hours and 40 minutes long.
It's 2 hours and 40 minutes. It took a while. It did take a while.
It will take less time to read it, apparently.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Can you scroll down? Is this literally the entire? Is it the entire transcript? Yeah. See, look at all the topics. Just go up. Like, we discuss.
That's all boulder point.
No,
or
like
bullet points.
we discuss outline is literally like 35 things. Historical trends and fatalities, the demographics of drivers involved in crashes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, phone use and drinking and all this kind of stuff. The one criticism that I do have of it is that the whole discussion largely focuses on the individual. What can the individual do right while driving? What can the individual do wrong while driving? That kind of thing, as opposed to like, how have we systematically failed our society by setting up the roadways in a certain way? So I wish that was like touched on a little more. But either way, there's a lot to be taken away there. And I mean, Peter like clearly knows a lot about driving, and when he talks about when he drives, the way he's scanning the road, the way he's going, well, what if this guy does this? Where am I going to go? Looking for escape routes. And it's like, it's kind of how I drive actually.
Yeah.
And it's how like people should teach their kids to drive. And he said he made his daughter, he said if she wanted a car when she turned 16, he got her a stick pickup truck. And he was like, and she was like, I don't want this. And he was like, well, the bus is cool too. But if you want a car from me, like, it's this car. Like, you have to learn to drive stick, and you have to like engage with the machine and understand what your controls do. And I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. And the looking ahead thing, that's something I remember Lee King, we were talking about racing drivers, which he has won. And one of the differences between, winner and 5th place and 10th place, especially with like Pro-Am versus Pro, is how far ahead they can look on a track. And that's like, they're playing that chess move where they're looking 2 corners or 3 corners ahead if they can, and then they're placing the car where it needs to be in this corner. Whereas newer people, and I know I do this sometimes too, where it's like you're looking right in front of the hood because you're like, I want to be on the perfect part of this perfect apex, and I want to move a little bit and get it right. But if you scan ahead, it usually sets you up for better maneuvers. And same thing in traffic. You'll be able to see brake lights further ahead instead of going, oh shit, everyone's stopping, I didn't notice. Yeah,
exactly. So there's definitely a lot to be learned in the 3-hour talk, and I may listen to some more Peter Attia, some other stuff. He definitely is a good interviewer for sure, and he did his homework beforehand for sure. But I do wish that they spent a little more time on infrastructure. What role our road design and stuff like that has to play, and particularly when it comes to pedestrian and cyclist safety. There's a couple times where I don't think it's entirely wrong, but Mark, the expert, refers to pedestrian deaths where someone might be at fault, where
the pedestrian's at fault?
yeah,
or?
I mean, meaning like the pedestrian crossed somewhere that you might not expect a pedestrian. They dart out into traffic or whatever, and that could be referred to as the pedestrian is at fault, even if they die. But I think that it's tough to talk about that without saying that, like, well, why would a pedestrian feel like they need to cross there? Is there not an appropriate crosswalk? And they use the term jaywalking a couple times, and like the fucking racist history of jaywalking is like a whole other thing. Like it was like a pretext to arrest black people, and so though they didn't get into those nuances.
But if you remove the term, like some people cross the street because they don't want to walk to the corner.
Sure.
Like I've definitely done that because I'm too lazy to go down to the corner.
Sure, but also but some people, like when I've read in a lot of these books about road design and sometimes the crosswalks and intersections are so far apart that it just becomes like this is just one example, but they showed where this lady had to walk to get to the bus station, which was it was 3 lanes each way with a divider in the middle. And it was like a 45-mile-an-hour zone. But if you looked at the road without a sign, cars could easily go 70, and there's traffic lights every half a mile. And then there was this thing, this whole thing and so she crossed. It was like almost a mile for her to walk to the bus station that she could see.
That I think is ridiculous. Yeah. Especially if there's a bus station, people are going to be walking there because that's how they go. That's why they ride the bus.
A lot of pedestrian deaths happen in those sort of arterial roads where there isn't a good crosswalk and there aren't enough lights and the speed limit is 35 or 45, but just a driver looking at this road, if there's not a lot of cars on it, the driver could easily go 65 or 70 because it looks like a highway.
Yeah. I'm
guilty of this too. I'm not saying I'm holier than thou and I go 35 on there, but like that's just how people act.
Who is the professor we talked to?
Koopman.
Was it the woman also?
Oh, yes.
And just the shape and size of the road, like people's inclination is if it's tighter, they're going to slow down.
The one who was talking about repainting the fucking lines. Yeah.
And it makes sense.
Narrowing the road lanes, yeah. Everyone hated that conversation. Nobody wants to be inconvenienced. That was something that came up in this conversation. It's like everyone says they want safety, but like nobody wants it at the expense of perceived convenience.
Right, it's the NIMBY thing. Like for homeless apartments or housing or whatever, it's the same thing. Everyone's like, I think it's a great idea. And we go, what if we do it? What if it changes your life somehow? And they go, absolutely not.
Dude, that's happening in my neighborhood. In where I live now, there's a proposed zoning change in the shopping center area near my house that right now is just some fucking bullshit shopping center. There's a grocery store and there's some, 10, 12 other stores, right? A couple like sucky restaurants, like chain restaurants, whatever. And they're proposing the zoning change to put a high-rise housing development there, sort of like the one they built at La Cienega and Jefferson. You know what I'm talking about? The one, it's fucking tall. You can see it from really far away. And even though there's like homeless people living in RVs like right up the street from me, and there's all these like, an obvious housing crisis, I went to the council meeting and all the fucking neighbors were like, no. And I'm looking around these people, particularly the ones who live on my street, and they're like, you won't even be able to see this from your house. Like, you're far enough, it's over a half a mile from my house. I was like, and I'm thinking about all the apartment buildings that are less than half a mile from our house now. And they're like, it's going to make the traffic worse. It's going to make this and that. And I'm like, you literally can't even see this building from your fucking house. Like, how are you so mad at it? It's going to change the character of the neighborhood. And I'm like, we have such a housing shortage in this city. Like, people need to live somewhere. We have to build housing somewhere. Yeah.
Or it just keeps getting more expensive for everybody, like people like myself. And then and people that, don't have enough money to live in like a low-income housing situation, It's like they're still going to live in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
as they've demonstrated. So if they're going to be in an
Either
RV or
they're going
something,
to live in an RV or a tent,
Right.
or an apartment, a brand new apartment building.
Yeah.
And which would you rather look at?
Yeah.
It was crazy. So anyway, that was a good one. What episode? Go scroll up to the top. This is
295.
episode 295 of the Peter Attia podcast. That's if you got 3 hours, that's worth your time. Speaking of infrastructure, you see the fucking PCH closed again, collapsed in Big Sur.
No.
Yeah, big chunk of the PCH fell into the ocean. So now everyone who lives in Big Sur is talking about, that there's too much tourist traffic. It's getting too built up. I guess a couple of people are trying to build resorts up there, and this one lane road each way, Pacific Coast Highway, that we as drivers enjoy so much. It's one of the best driving roads on the planet.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It now feels like it's closed. I feel like it's closed almost every year.
It does feel like that, yeah.
It does, right?
Or every other, for sure. And the size of slides varies. I mean, there was a huge one a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This, I'm waiting for the video ad to stop, but it looks like a smaller slide, but it
took out a fucking chunk of the road.
Well,
it made the road
underneath
impassable.
it is unstable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you're not going to want to go there anyway.
Yeah.
It was a lot of rain. I mean, Highway 1 right by us, on the way up to Malibu to go film, there were multiple small landslides, but they took up a whole lane, and they were there for a week.
Yeah, it's. I wonder how much rain do you think we have to have for it to level out?
I have no idea.
What is the
do you mean
max?
level out?
I mean, how much rain do we have to have where, a rain stops fucking shit up? Is there a certain level of vegetation density or moisture density in the cliff sides where if it rains the next time, the whole fucking shit isn't going to come down?
7.
Okay, cool.
7 is the amount.
7.
I have no idea, and I think if there's too much water, then it destabilizes the hillsides and stuff, and if there's not plants there for whatever reason, then that probably maybe it's a cycle where there's droughts, so there's fewer plants, then all of a sudden it rains a lot, so the ground is saturated and you get a mudslide. I don't know. If someone is a engineer, which profession would know these things?
Transportation engineer?
Maybe.
Infrastructure engineer?
Soil something?
City engineer? Urban engineer?
Or an ecologist. They might know. I don't know. If you're listening and you know how these things work, please tell us in the comments.
What kind of engineer? Civil engineer. A civil engineer builds roads. Probably should have known that, but...
I meant someone who understands the hillsides and how much water they can absorb.
Right.
But whatever.
That would be an environmental scientist, maybe?
So we need them and a civil engineer to chime in the comments.
Right.
And tell us how much water is too much. I mean, I think we're learning this is too much right now, but maybe, nature will stabilize itself and more things will grow and then the hillside will be okay. I don't know.
If more plants grow on the hillside, roots hold the shit together.
Yeah,
Better.
But underneath PCH up at Big Sur, I mean, plants aren't growing underneath the road because it looks like the soil was washed out from under.
Under.
It was underneath. It was it was dug out. So that's just.
I feel like the rain comes down the hillside and then goes under the road.
It does.
And it fucking eats it out like a termite.
Right. Well, that's why you'll see a lot of those, the pipes underneath. So they go, the water's always coming down here. We need to give it an avenue that doesn't erode the hillside, so we'll shoot it through this pipe. But that means they have to cut the road up, drop the pipe in, put the road back over it. So, and how often?
It's a union gig. They got 3 no-shows and 2 no-works. You never know.
Well, I mean, it's do I want to do this every half mile, every 5 miles? It's expensive.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know if increased tourism is affecting the road stability. It seems like it's rain.
It might just be more traffic in general and more stress on the road, and especially if you build a resort, then it's like you're sending trucks.
Yeah.
Trucks, either whether they're construction trucks or beer delivery trucks or whatever that might not have otherwise been going up that road.
Yeah. I mean, that hopefully would, that could dish the road out,
Yeah.
That'd
Ruin the
be a shame.
tarmac for folks like us.
It's true, because there's good tarmac on Highway 1.
It is good tarmac, yeah. They just repaved the north part, north of San Francisco.
The Nordschleife.
The really good part up by Sea Ranch and shit up there between Sonoma and San Francisco. That's the sneaky good part.
Yeah. That's
the part that everyone focuses on Big Sur, but actually that north part is kind of where it's at. That's a good one. Not too many RVs up there. Ryan Zumalin emailed me. Did he email you?
No.
He's running the Motor Press Guild. He's the president of the Motor Press Guild now. Is it president? I think it's president, right? I think that's the elected position, president. Ryan Zumailin, author of the Cult of GTR book. So he sent me an email saying, "Are you gonna not submit any nominations for awards?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Are you gonna put any of your bits of content up for awards? Because like we'd love to see, the smoking tire and some of them." And I couldn't. I was like, I've never written anything or made any video and then thought I should get an award for this. Never once. I don't know if you've ever felt like that you've written something or made a video where you go, you should get an award for this.
Well, I don't know what awards are given out for this. I know
Well,
there's the Webbies, but there's stuff I'm proud of.
I have
in
the
relation to the rest of my
categories,
work.
and so we're gonna solicit. Since I don't fucking
should.
know, I think, but I don't think. I think you have to be an MPG member to vote. I don't think just anybody can vote or nominate. I think you have to be an MPG member. But I'm gonna read off the categories here, and if someone out there listening to the show has read something that Zack and I wrote for Road and Track, or seen a video, or listened to any episode of the podcast, and this is an individual piece of content that we're talking about that you feel is so good it should get an award, leave a comment and let us know. So first category with two subcategories is articles, right? A1, best of the year news article. Any length topical event coverage. A2, best of the year feature article. Any length non-news, non-review, automotive topic, personality profiles, historical, lifestyle, etc. Possibly my Killer Mike profile for Road and Track, my interview with that. I thought that was pretty good. Mm-hmm. Killer Mike's great. B is the audio visual. So B1, best of the year video review. Straightforward. So has any video that we've made in the last year, is that award worthy?
We should submit and find out.
Maybe. If I was going to submit one last year, maybe 911 Dakar.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that. Maybe DB12 in France. That one was all right. That one of the ones that we didn't make any money on but had a good script.
CTR versus Supra.
Maybe. Maybe. Okay.
Or the Lotus. one.
So new vehicle or comparison test, and then also there's a best of the year audio program or podcast. Now that's an individual episode. So I don't know if we had a single podcast episode in the last year that you think would qualify for an award.
That's hard because my brain gravitates to the ones with big guests that did big numbers, but I don't know if that's just like, does that mean that was the best episode or it was just a big guest poll? No offense to those guests.
No, I would say something that's award worthy would have to be something that's like of social importance. Like,
right.
Like Koopman or something like that. Mm-hmm. I hate to say it, but maybe the one with Camisa. Because I don't like Camisa. I mean, I do like Camisa, but like, you know what I mean? Like that's
the great irony would be if his Cybertruck video won an award, and then our podcast him won an award.
Yeah. So those are the two, and then you've got C1, best of the year social media feed. Entire body of social media work for a year.
Not mine. That's for damn
I think
sure.
Johnny won best Instagram once for this. Like a couple of years ago. Our Instagram is so much better than his.
Yeah.
I could. So possibly there's that. And then best of the year YouTube channel, which I don't think we deserve to win that, frankly.
I agree.
I would vote for like Throttle House over us, for sure. And then there's books, best of the year book.
Well, it's got to be Ryan Zumailin's book on the GTR.
Obviously. He might be like...
He probably can't.
I don't know.
He can't submit.
He can't submit, but someone else could submit Like
And vote, right.
if we could submit Throttle House or something for video. Like you can nominate someone else. Ryan was asking us to
But
nominate
we're not
ourselves.
the president. That would be like a near-sitting president owning a publicly traded company or something
Right.
like that. You know, it could influence a lot of things.
Right, and then there's photography, published photographs in magazines or commercial websites, or photo essays. So those are the categories.
Okay.
So I don't know. I mean, if you leave a comment, if you think the deadline is April 15th, so this will go up before then, right? Because this goes up on Tuesday.
Affirmative.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this will go up before then, and if there's something we've made this year that you think should be nominated for a Motor Press Guild award, let us know, and maybe we'll gather up the fucking cojones to actually do it.
That is tough. That's complimenting ourselves.
I know.
Which
I
we're
don't.
not good at.
I don't think. I mean, the only thing I would ever nominate best parking facility. I could do that. That's about it though. Boy, the wall is coming along nice down at South Bay. WCCS South
That's
Bay.
good.
Fucking big ass concrete ass fucking wall. That's coming out
But
nice.
broken glass along the top.
Yeah, right. There's going to be like murder weapons all over it.
I've seen that. I mean, I think I was like in Mexico, and I went, you know what? That's a really smart
Broken
way
glass?
to not have to buy barbed wire.
Barbed wire's not that expensive. But
is
I
to
guess
some people.
in Mexico, you just fucking chug a Corona and fucking huck it in the corner.
I
and
thought,
here
you know
go.
what? That's effective.
Yeah, it's cool. But you can't. You don't. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Does it? So it's like covers like the top cap of the wall.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's fucking gnarly.
Hey, recycle.
I might
know?
do razor wire. I mean, just cause it's like.
Because you're storing
'Cause
cars
it's-
that
yeah.
cost a lot of money.
Yeah, just cause.
Yeah. You gonna get dogs?
I want to do razor wire, but then I also want to do like some ivy to soften it a little bit, to like make it look.
I think that's also a good
Kinda
idea. Make
nice.
it look a little bit nicer, a little more friendly.
Yeah.
You gonna get guard dogs?
I heard.
Tesla robot?
No, we have guard cats. We have junkyard cats that live by the shop. Have you seen them?
Yeah, but I don't think they're
kittens?
defending the place from being robbed.
No, but they keep the fucking mice away
That's
for
true.
sure. Though.
Yeah, that's good.
No, I think the 8-foot concrete wall should do it. That should really do it. Because before there's this garbage chain link fence.
Yeah.
That's no good. That's
Yeah.
not going to work. But so we don't have a main topic for you today. I'm sorry, but we don't.
We don't.
We just don't. I do like the main topic. It's like a good thing to do.
Yeah, it's a great thing for us to grab onto, and
Yeah.
I've been really surprised at how different our answers have been for many of the shows. Because
Yeah.
we have a lot of overlap in our tastes in cars, but the last like 5 shows, we've barely shared a single car out of
Yeah.
our list of 5.
But I wonder if that's because like we thought about the ethos of the question differently. Like with the luxury cars, when I went like back to the 40s and shit, and all yours were like sort of bang for your buck, depreciated.
Yeah,
Luxury
if I'm buying a luxury car, I don't want to stop on the side of the road and have to take out my, like, leather belts and things to fix it. Like,
You don't want to have a driver that is outside while you're inside.
Yeah, no,
To me, that's luxury. You go out.
I get that, but like, I don't want to have that Bothwell experience where I'm like, oh, I gotta replace the belt on my Model T again.
Well, that's not luxury.
hammer
If
the
you were at a
sink.
Bugatti Royale, you wouldn't be replacing.
Oh yeah, that
belts.
would never break.
The Bugatti Royale did not have a separate cylinder head. The head and the block were one.
That's good.
One
You'll never
thing.
blow a head gasket.
Yeah.
You
No,
think
there
nothing's
is
gonna
no-
break on that car?
There is no. No, that engine powered a fucking train. Thing
So
was going.
If a
Thing was
train
fucking
engine,
going.
it shared that work with 3 other engines. So if one failed, you had 3 more.
I suppose that's true.
I'm just saying, driving a Bugatti from 100 years ago, nearly, might not be a
I
check
bet
engine
a
like free
Bugatti
experience.
Royale hasn't fucking broken down on the side of the road in 20 years.
That's because they're not driven. Yeah,
Just say it.
Nice try.
Just say it. Pick and choose your facts, and anything can be true.
yeah.
You take things out of context. That's how we're doing it. This is the new information economy.
Just asking questions.
Anything can be true if properly removed from context.
Very, very true.
Speaking of
Look how cheap bread is in this other country.
Speaking of which, shout out to my neighbor and friend, Mr. Steve Oken, who has a new film on Amazon and Apple right now called God and Country, which is depressingly about the takeover of our government by Christian nationalists. And it's a great movie. If you you want to be incredibly depressed about how far into fascism we actually are, the answer is real fucking far and also real fucking close. And how, like, divorced from reality some Christian nationalists are, like lots of them. But yeah, I watched it last night. Boy, did I get depressed.
Did you listen to the Peter Attia podcast for 3 hours, then watch this movie, and then try to sleep?
Yeah, it's good. Good. And in case you're wondering why I look
good at
like
having
this,
fun. Yeah.
fuck,
I
suck.
And I watch a lot of political stuff too, but I break it up throughout the day with some other things.
Not just this. I
Sprinkle.
worked out with Some More News.
Yeah.
Where I did. It was an hour on why corporations have more rights than people. Then I cooked dinner while listening to the Peter Attia thing, and then I sat down with a fucking glass of George Dickel bottled in Bond, and I watched 2 hours on the rise of fascism. In case you're wondering why I'm not like fucking cheery.
You're not even blue pilling yourself. I don't know what you're doing, but you're just like I think you need to break it up.
It's just a real slow suicide.
Just watch a comedy.
Yeah.
Break it up. Watch something
I watched
funny in the middle.
Dave Attell's special.
That was
His
fun.
New special
That
the
was
other
very
day.
funny. Yeah.
Fucking
really good.
Machine gunning one-liners.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
awesome.
Dave Attell was real good.
The fucking recorder thing at the
The
end.
recorder thing was really funny.
Yeah,
It's a fucking
with
good
one Easter egg under
Yeah.
one person's seat.
Yeah,
that was
that's
great.
a good bit.
Yeah, it was.
About our merch store. Shopify has kicked us in the dick, and we spent a lot of money on merch and a lot of time prepping it and promoting it and all of that kind of stuff. And then Shopify decided that they needed to evaluate our merchant account or some shit and decided to like stop taking payments. And so hopefully by the time this podcast goes up to everybody and not just the patrons, that will be fixed. It's taken a surprising amount of time to fix it. But if you want to buy something from our merch store, which is at thesmokingtire.com under the merch tab, or at thesmokingtireshop.com, either one will take you there. And it says like this vendor is not accepting payments, please just leave the item in your cart and try again the following day. And I'm sorry about the bullshit. It's, I swear to God, not something we wanted to do, and it's, if you think you're annoyed. All right, but you know what works real goddamn good? The Patreon. Patreon.com/thesmokingtirepodcast. You can get an ad-free listening experience. You can ask questions for the show. You can watch the live stream, and you can get the show before anybody else at patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. And let's get to some of these. Joe says, I own Hartmut Fails C38 Rentec. That's pretty cool. Hartmut is the founder of Rentec. I don't actually know what the C38 is. Is that a C36 with a stroker engine in it? C38 Rentec. Oh, how interesting. I guess it's a C, maybe a C320 with like some stroker fucking crank in it.
Wow, someone back
It
in the
looks like
day.
a regular C-Class. How old is this article? From 2019. Maybe this is the same car. Go down. Shout out to Andrew Collins who wrote this. It looks like a C320 with, Jesus, holy Jalopnik. Talk about a company that fucking dropped the ball. Go up, stop, go up, there. C320 bored and stroked to C to 3.8 liters.
Wow.
There you go.
And it made...
What?
Oh, no, it's
It went from 215 horsepower to 291 horsepower and 221 pound-feet to 305 pound-feet.
Dude, back in 2001, that was
that's
stout.
a decent number. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
It's a neat bit of Rentec history.
However,
have you ever driven a C55?
it's his first car.
This was his first car, and I'd regret selling it. I mean, this is so forgetting what the car is.
Someone's trying to buy it. He's wondering, should I sell it or will I regret selling it?
Right. I think it depends on how, even though it's a cool bit of history, and even though it is a brand name tuner car with a good bit of personal car history, the question is, will you miss it if you sell it? And so if you think you'll regret selling it and you can afford not to sell it, then don't sell it. I mean, it's that easy. If you sell this car, you're never going to see it again. You're not going to get it back. It's going to be gone. And if you try to get it back, it's going to cost you more money than you got to sell it. So it depends. What you're asking is a financial question disguised as a car question. If you can afford to keep it, then keep it. And if it is no longer your like daily, then you can, on your own time and your own budget, restore it, set it up for some different type of activity, improve it cosmetically, whatever.
It also, I think, depends do you still love it? Are you happy you had time with it, but you're ready to move on? There's stuff like that too.
Luke Talion says, what do you think the next popular resto-mod platform will be, a la Singer, Radford, Icon, etc.? I mean, we've already seen quite a few, right? We've seen Lancia Deltas. We've seen BMW E30 M3s.
There's 190Es now. Someone's making one of those.
Yeah. Curated is doing the 190 Evo 2 or the repop fucking thing. It's important to recognize that the how do I say this? The 911s are the easiest ones to do. No disrespect to Gunther or Singer or any of those people, because they made almost the same car for like 30 years. Mm-hmm. And so you can mix and match. Singer does sort of a greatest hits album. Gunther does the start here and move it forward album. And there's a lot you can do with that. Radford is a coach-built Evora, basically.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, they're not saying, hey, we're taking Lotus and making it look like 4 generations of Lotus put together. That would be the Singer model. Yeah. They're saying we're going to use this as a base and then make it look like a totally different car.
I mean, look, full disclosure, they're paying me to store the car, but downstairs we've got that Revology Mustang, which I put on Instagram last night. Mm-hmm. That is not based on a 1968 Mustang. That's a 2022 Mustang under there, but they got the proportions right of the body.
Yeah.
And they're doing brand new built, brand new powertrains. I drove it very briefly yesterday, and we're going to do a review on it, but not that one.
Okay.
That one has got the naturally aspirated motor with an automatic in it. Their other one, the blue one that Leno drove, has the blower motor with a 6-speed manual in it, and that's the one we're going to drive. That one's coming in like next month. So Revology's they've got a variety of body styles. They've got this is the GT500 KR. There's the Bullet one, which is like what's downstairs. There's one that looks like a 66 Shelby GT350. This is the one that's here, the one that looks like the Bullet Mustang, the 68 GT Highland Green. And they've got what is it, 10 different body styles.
Wow.
And actually they really nail the proportions. And they're expensive.
But they're the size of a new Mustang, right?
No. Exactly the same size as the old car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there are no parts from a classic car on there. They're not.
They rebuilt everything.
They rebuild everything. I don't know where they get the VINs from. I don't know how they're registered. I don't know that. If we do a review, I'll find that out. But this is not a car that is based on the classic car. It's built from all brand new parts. But it's a pro touring car that looks most of the way to the original, but what really impressed me the most about the one downstairs was the door slam.
I was going to say it's probably put together much.
The door
much higher
slam
quality.
felt like a Porsche, and I've slammed the doors on plenty of muscle cars, and this was a world of difference, hugely different. So I really wanted to drive one, and it's very cool. I don't care for the supercharged engine. I think that's unnecessary. But and I had a few notes for them about the interiors. They use a couple of off the rack buttons that I think for that price point I might try and find other solutions for. But that being said, it was tight as a fucking drum, that car. Really, if I was gonna drive like an old car, I'd much rather just fucking plunk down the money. I mean, it was the difference between driving a resto-modded Bronco and an Icon. That's what this was compared to most pro touring builds.
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff, Detroit Speed and
they're all very expensive.
They're doing amazing stuff. Yeah. But This is like a production run, turnkey thing. So I think there'll be a market for muscle cars that are not a pro touring muscle car, where it's a turnkey build that actually feels much more like a new car. That's the answer to that question.
I think we're going to see, and we're already seeing it with Evasive, with the S2000s, but I think we're going to see JDM stuff come into this.
Oh yeah, well, and you've got the Built by Legends,
Skyline thing. So I think we're going to see it branching out.
Yeah. Bad Gardener says Harry Metcalf has talked about the amazing ride of his old Rolls compared to modern stuff. Are there no modern cars that are as uncompromising in comfort as some cars are uncompromising in speed? No, there are. New Rollses to be one example. But I think one of the reasons that we can't totally nail the comfort thing is we love big rims.
Yeah.
At a certain point, there's just no replacement for sidewall. I mean, driving that Maybach SUV around, if that thing had like 18s or 20s on it.
With balloon tires?
It would ride. It would actually ride better. Same with the Rolls Spectre. It had the 23s on it. And even though all the suspension technology in the world couldn't dial out some of those hard edges because of the rims.
I think we also, after decades of people reviewing luxury cars and saying, but it leans in the corners a lot, they were stating a fact. Like those cars did lean a lot. So we're at this place where we're trying to have our cake and eat it too.
Right.
Where the suspension makes the car feel nimble in a corner, but then when it goes over a bump in a straight line, it's very compliant.
Yeah.
And it's just tough to have both of those things. Whereas the Rolls, no one gave a shit that it couldn't go around a corner flat.
Well, and I think most people that are spending luxury car money, and I mean deep, $200, $300, $400, $500, hundreds of thousands of dollars on luxury cars, they want big rims as an aesthetic.
Well, and I mean,
They
now
don't
it
want
kind of fits the car too.
and the luxury cars are bigger, they're heavier. You got a 15-inch brake on there.
Yeah.
So you need a 20+ inch wheel no matter what. I mean, my Bentley has got hydraulic suspension. It's got 15-inch wheels, 65 series sidewall tires. So the tire's doing a lot of work there. So I'm not surprised that Harry said that, but I think that the priorities of people have changed, even for the cars that are supposedly true comfort-focused cars. Aiden Squires says, what weird or obscure cars will always turn your head? Oh, there's a bunch.
Yeah, Amigos.
Bro, if I see a
Samurais.
Suzuki X90 on the street, I'm checking that out.
I still respect the Suzuki SX4.
They're all right. They didn't get enough love.
They didn't, but they're good.
Shout out to the Kazashi.
Oh, yeah.
Suzuki
Kazashi's
Kazashi
cool.
was an all right car. If I see a Nissan Pulsar with the weird tops you could change, those are fucking cool.
Pontiac Solstice. For real.
Not
Especially
that that weird. There's so many. And the bottom line is, any weird or obscure car will turn my head. What doesn't turn my head anymore is an exotic car.
Right.
I've seen them, but if I see someone rolling around in a mint condition Panos Roadster, I'm like, I want to know what that dude's deal is. Yeah, for sure. Tyrrell Northcutt, is the Mark 8 Golf R better in automatic or manual? Looking for a fun dad car. We didn't drive it in manual. We only drove it in auto. But we drove the regular GTI in manual, and that feels the same, right?
Yeah, but I think the Golf R DCT is so good. I would rather own it in DCT. And I know that's sacrilegious to say.
I think the whole car is better set up for DCT, isn't it?
It's a car that can do a lot of things, and so I think the transmission can also do that. It can make me feel like I'm a race car driver, and then it can handle the job for me when I'm in traffic.
Yeah.
So that's what I want from that car.
Yeah. Tim says, would you welcome the knob controls from the GT3 RS steering wheel on lower trim 911s? Do you find yourself making fine-tune adjustments or just set it and forget? I kicked this question from the last show to this show, and I might kick it to the next show because so far I've had this car for 3 days, and I've driven it in normal. Only in normal.
You haven't adjusted the diffs?
I haven't adjusted anything.
Are you a journalist? Do you even
know
like
what's
cars?
fucked up? I have literally only driven that car from the office to my house. probably 6 times, back and forth, office house, office house, office house. I am intimately familiar with how shitty it rides on this road. Like Johnny was in here, or whoever, I think it was Johnny who had the GT3RS, and he's like, no, it rides great on the street. He's lying. It doesn't. It rides awful. It rides exactly as awful on the street as I thought it would. It tram lines. It's fucking bouncy. When you go full lock to pull it in out of a parking space, it goes chat because the fucking Ackerman angle or whatever you call it is all fucked up. It's you do not want to commute in this car.
No,
it's
you
not
shouldn't.
good.
It's not what it's for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In its most comfortable setting, it is not remotely comfortable. My car is my Spider is a Phantom compared to this fucking thing. Now, it's not what it's for, but I think that anyone who says that this is a nice street car is really kidding themselves.
I think it depends on where they live, but if they live in this city with us, where Johnny lives or whoever said that,
yeah,
then it's
Johnny
very
lives in
bumpy.
this city.
No, that's what I'm saying, because I know that the British journalists have said like it's not that bad, but they live in a place that has smoother roads, and so we do
live
have to
in
remember.
Wales. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, we have to remember how bad the roads are here, but that's where we live. That's the environment we're in.
Yeah.
So we test the cars on the places we test the cars.
No, it's not good at that. It's if that you don't want that if that's what you're doing. But I bet it'll be great on the hill. I mean, then it's those credentials are not questioned.
The question is, does it
I got a
ride differently than the 992, the regular GT3 on the hill? That'd be the test.
Yeah, that is. I got him write a note. Ask Pat for his settings. What does he like? This is the exciting part of the show where I make notes.
What diff settings does race car driver like for driving?
I can't
in town?
be trusted to fucking set
I
that
agree.
shit up. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Neither can anybody. It's 4-3 day. What are your fondest memories of Ken Block?
I mean, every piece of content he's made, basically.
My favorite thing about Ken Block is not one of the exciting things. It's when he made the YouTube thumbnail brand guide with Brian Scotto and demonstrated the exact optimum center card, which is probably the most boring thing about Ken Block, but it's important, and I related.
Because he knew he figured out the system.
Yeah. He was the first person that I knew of that found a scientific methodology to not just how to pose, but the angle of the camera and the this and the that and the fucking face and all. He figured that out, I think, before anybody.
That makes sense because his history with DC and everything else was like, doing layouts, doing ads. How do we get people's attention? I just think it's rad that he brought skateboard culture energy to cars.
Randy says typically, this is a merch question. Can they pre-order a 4XL shirt before you do your next batch? Bro, we're struggling selling anything right now. I will ask about outsized sizes. Maybe there's something we can do. The answer is maybe, and I don't know, but I will ask the right person. The real Hank McCoy. What is a good if you know watch and car? For example, I have no memories of seeing a Ford Taurus until I saw the SH. Okay.
Like a sleeper
Like
watch.
a sleeper insider car.
Well, the Icopod, you talked about that in the last show. Like, that's a sleeper watch.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, sleeper car,
There's
there's
a lot of good sleeper watches. I mean, every Grand Seiko is a sleeper watch. If most people would Seiko, like whatever. But you could be wearing a the nerdiest watch of all time is the Creedor. Creedor is a step above Grand Seiko. Creedors are fucking crazy. And
is it made by Seiko?
It is a sub-brand of Seiko. So regular Seikos are made in factories, right? Mostly made by machines. Grand Seikos are made in a separate factory at the foot of Mount Iwate, all made by hand. Wait, hang on. Go up. Go. Where is this? What site is this? Oh, go to sort by price highest. Price. There's old Creedors and there's new Creedors. Go price high to low. That's what we're talking about. So pull up the second one, the white one.
God.
The white one, that one. So this is a watch, and what we're looking at here is the Creedor Wisdom 2. This is a watch that to most people looks like something you'd buy at a department store, right? It's got a white dial with just blue stick indices. There's no lume. It's a silverish case on a leather band. It doesn't look like anything, right? But it's $50,000. Now, why is that? That is because the dial is enamel, and those blue lines that indicate the hours are hand painted by one person.
That's impressive.
So it takes about a week for the person to hand paint those, and it's insane.
Does
It's
it look like that watch is resting on a pill?
It looks like it's resting on a Tylenol-shaped pillow.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it does. That might actually, I don't know what that is, but I think it's for this exact purpose. But
Yeah.
It looks
Okay.
like a Tylenol. Yeah. So, and if you look at the back, Zach, go to the other photo of the movement in the back. It's one of the most
Whoa.
exquisitely finished, spring drive movements. This is even by, so there's the Grand Seikos, which are all made by hand finished, hand everything. And then within Grand Seiko, there's the micro artist studio, which is like 4 people. And all Creedors are made by Micro Artist Studio, and it takes 25 years to train to be in Micro Artist Studio, and there's nobody that that gets to work there.
Jeez.
And so the Creedor is the most Japanese watch that exists because it is outwardly sleepy-ish, and you have to be the biggest nerd ever to know what one of these is.
Yeah, it's very stealth wealth.
But if you see someone if you know watches and you see someone wearing one of these fucking things, you go, okay, this is someone.
yeah, for people listening, this is $47,000.
For a watch that looks like at first glance like it's a Michael Kors.
Citizen, yeah.
Yeah.
It looks very simple.
And the finishing on them is absolutely extraordinary. And yeah, they're all precious metals. They're all made of platinum or yellow gold, but it's really all about the fact that dial is not printed. It's hand painted, perfectly straight, perfectly spaced, no fuck ups, no evidence that it's actually done by hand, but it is.
It's like pinstriping.
Yeah. Wait, but we didn't do the
Car
car
version. I think this question depends on who's looking. Like, if a non-car person sees an RS6,
Yeah.
they see an Audi wagon. And depending on who they are, they might go, oh, that's boring. You have a wagon? How lame. Car people go, that's a 650 horsepower
Yeah.
Audi wagon.
Toyota
Depends
Century.
on how sleepy it is. Toyota Century, it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, like a Toyota Chaser, some weird JDM thing that people don't.
Well, especially if it's older, because
Yeah.
then people just think you're driving some weird old Toyota.
Yeah.
But we know that it's a good one.
Yeah, maybe like an AMG Hammer. I mean, a lot of people would look at an AMG Hammer and go, "Oh, that's an old Mercedes with
Yeah,
cool
probably.
wheels." They wouldn't go, "Wait, that's $800,000."
They wouldn't know that. They
Yeah.
might go, oh, the fender's a little wider. What is that? But they wouldn't know it's $800,000.
Yeah.
That's the tough thing. Honestly, a singer to someone who doesn't know, and if you got a subdued color
Yeah.
and maybe without the gold script, they don't know that that's $2 million.
Sure, totally.
Especially because there's copycats.
Yeah.
now.
Let's see. Anthony L. Favorite things you've seen on concept cars that made it to production. Ooh. I think I've told this story before. My aunt used to work at Ford in their lighting division. They had a lighting division, and they had a running concept car that was based on the SN95 Mustang, and I think it was called Mustang Mach 3. Can you look that up? 94 or 95 Mustang Mach 3 concept. It was like a speedster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Got a
this
photo
is
of
the
that?
one. Yeah, it's cool.
That's what it was, right? The Mach 3, yeah. So there it is on the top left, and this was a car that had a full powertrain.
Does not look good with stripes.
No, the Shelby version was
Shelby
no
version,
good. The red one
Yeah,
right there.
that's cool.
So that was the first first American car to ever have xenon headlights.
Wow.
And it was a concept. Not xenon, HID. Excuse me, it had HID headlights, and the ballasts were like huge. Like now the ballast for an HID is like smaller than a cell phone, but they were big. And the whole trunk of this car was like full of batteries and computers and shit.
Is that why it's mid-engine? Or
It's not mid-engine.
it's not?
No, it's not mid-engine. It's
I mean,
front
this
engine.
looks like a Boxster.
Yeah, I know, but it's front.
So-
It's front engine. It just has a weird speedstery tonneau cover because they covered up the back seat.
What is this scoop for?
I don't know.
I mean, that's why, like, I feel like an idiot now for suggesting that, but from a profile, this looks like a Boxster made by Ford.
Yeah.
And then the fact that it has side scoops right in front of the rear wheel, I'm like,
I think
oh,
they just accented the scoops.
interesting. The
Wait,
headlights
go to
are very
that. Go to the
wrong.
article that picture's from. Alternate history. Let me see. Go down. Is it? Am I missing something? Keep going. Sorry. Yeah, it's a roadster body. Yeah, front engine Mustang platform. Yeah, it was. Okay, so I didn't imagine that it was front engine because I was 12 when. So she took this thing home, and we cruised in it on an M plate, and people fucking chased us all over town trying to. Because this was like pre-social media, and then we're in Detroit. We're on a manufacturer tag driving around. People thought this was like the next Mustang, and they tried to fucking buy it. They're offering money, and it also had xenon or HID headlights, and it had neon taillights. The taillights were actual neon tubes.
That's pretty rad.
So it was pretty. The neon tubes didn't make it. Look at the interior. The interior was pretty cool. Go down there.
tubes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that may have been after they changed it. I think they went to some kind of early because the neon things had to have all these like extra electronics in the trunk. They may have changed it to something else, but yeah, this sort of wonky retro.
Reminds me a lot of a Corvette, actually.
Yeah, right.
C1, C2.
It does look like a Corvette. Yeah, kind of fun though, huh?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's my favorite. I don't know what other.
I don't know. I don't remember concept cars and then what came from them 20 years later.
Yeah, I don't either.
My brain goes back to the Chrysler turbine car because that's
Yeah.
insane. And the fact that they put that in a concept and then we're like, yeah, let's try it out.
Yeah.
See what happens for a couple hundred.
I mean, I remember like
Looney Tunes.
what some concept cars looked like, but none of them
I just don't-
were
I
like
don't remember the
functional
features.
enough to me to really think.
Airbags.
Scott C says, I'm looking at a Mercedes CL as a weekend cruiser. Love the big body coupe styling, but am I making a mistake thinking about even owning one of these? Tyler Hoover said that the aftermarket has come forward to make these things a little more reliable than they were at their minimum, you know? Mm-hmm. So I don't know a lot. I've never driven. I mean, well, I drove one a long time ago, but I've never like tried to deal with the ownership risks of a CL.
I mean, I think, look, you say you have your own lift and you can do your own maintenance. It just depends on how comfortable you feel. I mean, nowadays with tools and YouTube, I mean, Tavares and these guys have demonstrated you can fix damn near anything. Just depends on how much work you want to put into it and how frequently that maintenance will be required. Mm-hmm. So I would do research on the forums and figure out, are there big problems that people go, well, if you solve this, then it's fine. Mm-hmm. And if you can solve that yourself, great. You save yourself a bunch of money. Or is it every month something breaks? Because that's just going to get annoying.
Gabe Price says, got tickets to Dead & Company at the Sphere. What are some other bands you'd want to see at the Sphere that could make good use of the capabilities? I think I went through this. Yeah, Muse for sure. 9 Inch Nails for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Taylor Swift actually I think would fucking kill there. Who's just like Coldplay could do an amazing. I mean, based on what I saw at the Rose Bowl, their creative design would be amazing.
Yeah.
Metallica, I think, could probably do the show I saw that they did in Palm Springs, which, by the way, Treatment, the company that did U2 and Dead & Company at the Sphere, did Metallica's show in Palm Springs. So I think they could do an amazing job.
I bet Marilyn Manson would, but it'd be terrifying. I bet it'd be amazing, but really
Possibly,
legit scary.
Yeah. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon would be super crazy.
I bet Glass Animals. They're not as big yet, but I think if you got the right artist to pair some imagery with their songs, it would be wild.
Yeah. I hate to say it because I think he's a bag of shit, but like maybe Kanye, if you could fucking pin him down.
If he wasn't in charge of the visual part,
Yeah,
maybe.
like possibly, and probably like Jay-Z, Beyonce could probably do something.
Beyonce.
Yeah,
Beyonce
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blair says, I have taught you to look at seats in configurators and when buying used. What other options or features don't get enough consideration when speccing or shopping for a car? Other features. I mean, it depends on the buyer, right? Like it's what do you value in the car? I mean, I would say there's an there's something configuring a car using an online configurator. I would reality check that with a dealer before you submit your build. Like, for instance, good example with my Spider, which I've mentioned before. I just did it on the online configurator. I was like, I know everything. And it's like, do you want dual zone climate control? And I said, no, it's a tiny car. Why would I possibly need 2 zones of climate control? So I hit no. But I did not know that if you don't get dual zone climate control, you don't have automatic climate control. There's no auto button. It's a toggle for your fan and a toggle for your temperature. That's it. And so I didn't want 2 zones, but I definitely would have taken the auto button. And if I knew that was how it worked, then I would have gotten the dual zone. That one. So like, you know, before you submit your build, you know, make sure that you check and make sure that you actually understand what each option that you got or didn't get means.
Yeah, there's a lot of if this, then what. Like if you choose this, you can't choose this thing, or you have to get this other thing. Like the way they package things now can be convenient for some people, but it can also be a negative if it's going to add features you don't use. I think seats are the most important thing because you sit in it. You interact with it literally the most out of any control in the car. My thing is always, I think it's easy to start ticking boxes in the configurator and try to think about really how often you'll use that feature. You know, do you go, oh, sunroofs are fun? Do you use it all the time? Do you never use it? Because it could add $2,000-$3,000 to your price.
Right.
So,
RS1 Daily says, if racing drivers never turn off traction or stability control systems for racing, why do journalists? That's a very loaded question, isn't it? You okay?
yeah.
Okay. I think that question ignores the difference between traction and stability control systems that are designed for racing and on a race car, and traction and stability control systems that are designed for street cars that are mass market vehicles.
Yeah.
First off, there's plenty of times where plenty of journalists, myself included, don't turn off traction control. When we make videos, I don't turn off traction control. I'm not breaking traction. I don't need to. But there are certain cars, and generally the more pedestrian the car, the more it matters, where the traction control can be so invasive that it pulls power and response before it really needs to, and it gets in the way of the driving experience in a performance setting. And so in that case, you might want to turn it off. Or on a racetrack, if you can safely find where the limit is and your goal is to become a better driver, not necessarily to set the fastest lap time, if you're trying to improve your skills or feel what the car's chassis will do without the electronics, then you probably want to turn it off.
Yeah, very true. I mean, so the BRZ we just tested, it kind of has a 2-mode traction control. It has track mode, which kind of gets you a little bit of slip. But then if you hold all the buttons, everything's full off. And so we were on a track in a closed course, and that was the place to try that. It was a safe place to appreciate the differences between those two things. But like racing traction control it allows them. I'm sure they can talk to the engineers like, I want 5 degrees of slip before this intervenes, and when it intervenes, it's super precise. And by the way, a lot of our technology in cars comes from racing, and that's one of them.
Yeah,
is the
multi-stage traction
multi-stage, like Mercedes with the 10-stage.
Yeah.
That came from racing. So,
well,
Ed
Miro was on the show a couple weeks ago, who is the development driver for Rimac. He's not a racing driver. He's a development driver. And journalists are more like development driver evaluators than they are like racing drivers, right? A racing driver needs to go fast. And if traction control and stability control will make the car go faster, around a track, then they're going to use it. But if a development driver or a journalist is trying to go, okay, what will the car do without the aid of electronics, then that is something worth finding out because there's information there. A journalist is not always trying to go as fast as possible to win a race. So that's why. Mm-hmm. But like, there's also cars that are like, you can go really fast in most modern cars without turning anything off.
Yeah.
And so unless I'm trying to learn something in specific or unless I'm on a racetrack, I'm not turning it off.
Yeah.
On the street, I don't turn it off.
Because traction control used to be like a helicopter parent, and now it gives you a little bit more room to play, and not necessarily like room to move, but there's better at detecting wheel slip and the angle of steering, and is there an actual problem? Like the traction control on my car is so invasive on the E46, and it kicks in at times where no other car, like the car's not sliding in the front, but it suddenly shuts the throttle down, and then it like fucks the turn up. Yeah,
traction control from like 10 to 20 years ago and traction control in a 2024 GT3 are like completely different things. Like just on Taycan GT, not a drive impression, but when is this coming out?
Next Tuesday.
Let's just say all high-performance Porsches, because I think this to be true, will give you 3 or 4 degrees of slip coming out of a corner, even if traction control is fully engaged. So like, and they won't just like kill everything. It's not just like a die. It'll gradually, so the higher performing cars, they work better. But I've heard that attitude. I can almost smell the attitude in the question. It's like sort of a question, like why do journalists need to do this if the race car drivers don't? It's because we're trying to figure out something different than getting across a finish line first.
I think it's just about knowing when to turn it on and when to turn it off, and when the system is going to help you actually have a better experience in the car, and then sometimes where it's really going to impinge the experience. Yeah.
I think a car that moves around on a racetrack where it's safe is very fun.
Me too. I mean, we had a track day, so of course I want to turn traction off, and the only, one of the things that the BR's ETS can do better than the GR is slide. Yeah. It's rear-wheel drive. So I had to turn traction off because I needed that advantage because you had 80 more horsepower. Yeah. So, I had to turn up the fun factor a little bit.
Kevin King says, I stumbled across a post of what is this car on Reddit. They want to know about the Gunther Works crash. Yeah, the Turbo Mule, Pat Long was driving it at Laguna, and he was pushing it to its limit, and there was a crash. He had a crash, and racing drivers, when trying to find the limit, even very good ones, can have a crash. I do know. I checked in with Pat as soon as I found out, which was like the next day maybe, or it might have been that day or the next day. He's fine, totally fine. He was wearing a Hans full fire suit, helmet, full face. The car didn't have a cage in it. Now, there's an argument that it should have, and I respect that. I read the post that Gunther put out that said why it didn't, because it was supposed to be representative of what customers were getting, and their cars weren't going to have cages. Okay, I understand that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand it.
Yeah, I think the thing is, and it's a lesson that they'll probably take going forward, is if the car is being used to try to go for records, like any other OEM that sends a car to the Nürburgring, they will usually put a cage in it because
safety cage.
And it's not that they're saying our structure can't handle a crash, but they're saying our car is not, if we're going to send our driver out there over and over and over again, we don't want to. Just take every safety precaution you can.
Yeah.
Why not?
And I mean, look, Pat is an adult. He's got a lot of experience. It's not like he thought the car had a cage in it and it didn't. He knew what he was looking at. At a certain point, he, as an adult, made the choice to drive the car in its state. I have to assume he knew what he was driving. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad he wasn't hurt. It's a bummer about the car. And maybe there'll be, in the future, if they build another mule for track work, they'll put a cage in it. I know their customer cars have an optional integrated cage. It is an option that they can do, and they hide it. They put like suede over it and shit. So This car didn't. That car was like, it was a mule. I mean, it was pretty rough, that car. It was not a finished representative product, nor was it supposed to be.
Yeah, maybe. Look, I don't. It's weird because in this day and age, there are a lot of cars made of carbon that have a carbon cell, McLaren, etc. Granted, they're large OEMs, but like, I think my brain comes to expect a certain level of crash fortitude from carbon cars because we see these images and hear stories of cars that have, McLaren's like that one that crashed at, not Gumball, but like Gold Rush, or the one that went off the mountain driven by somebody. Like, those have a rigid crash structure because they're an OEM, because they have to pass crash tests.
Well, that's a carbon tub.
I know. I'm
just
saying
replacing body panels
right.
with carbon.
And I think
that's the same thing.
So I think that's the difference, is that if it's carbon car, but it's not a carbon tub, then it probably needs to have some extra strength put in there, because especially if you're going to be doing race car stuff with it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be trying to set some kind of a lap record or something, then it's probably worth investing in some extra safety equipment.
Yeah,
I think that's probably true. I mean, when we were doing Taycan GT, they had the record cars there from the Nürburgring and from Laguna. And those cars had full cages in them. I mean, they took weight from somewhere else in the car to offset the weight of the cage. I forget exactly where they took the weight out of so that it was the same weight as the production car. That's important when you're an OEM. When you're Gunther Works, maybe it's not as important. I imagine if they're going to keep doing a lot of track work, this was really bad PR for them, and they'll probably put a cage in their car. But the most important thing is that Pat wasn't hurt.
Right.
Still love the car. The car was fucking crazy. We missed.
Excitement and safety rarely overlap.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Shelby Cobras, and they are very dangerous, and you don't want to crash in any of them. So, yeah.
A guy just died in a Shelby Cobra.
Yeah, a guy in NorCal.
Yeah.
He's part of the community. I didn't know him, but I saw Camisa's post. They did like a drive out kind of and a minute of noise to remember him. It was very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our show. And ended on kind of a downer. Sorry, though. That wasn't intentional. Didn't organize the questions according to cheeriness.
Well, now we're going to go home and watch a couple hours
Now we're going to go home. Yeah, let's...
sad documentaries. And,
Yeah, and enter Squid Game. No big deal.
Enter Squid Game.
Straight up. It's all good. Thanks for watching, listening. Thank you to our patrons. Of course, if you want to get involved in the show, patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. I hope by the time most of you are listening to this, our merch store is back up and running. That's very fucking annoying, and my bad. Our bad, whatever it is. And watch our DB12 review, which will be up on Monday. That's the following week, isn't it?
I think it's next Wednesday.
What video is going up the week of this show? Taycan?
Taycan.
Taycan GT.
DB12, and
Taycan
then
GT.
M3.
And then DB12. We keep trying to do the M3 video, and then we keep getting new embargoes that we have to race. So sorry about that, but it be what it be, man. See you later.